when Damian Lillard's out dropping 40, when Steph
Trae
Curry
Young.
is playing MVP, when Trae Young is hitting game winners, when Luka Doncic is carrying a bad team against a great team, when Chris Paul exists. Like, like, really?
Exactly.
When Kyrie Irving is dropping 50, 40, 90s, 30-point per games, like, sorry, Westbrook. It's the playoffs every time. He gets to the playoffs and just completely loses it.
Does that sound like a top 5 point guard to you, Will? Yes.
Hey, there's a reason Westbrook has never gotten out of the first round without Kevin Durant or James Harden on his team. And that's going to continue, and that's probably how he's going to end his career. Because Westbrook just isn't efficient enough as a player to win a playoff game. Like, that's just how it goes. Even with Paul George, he couldn't get out of the first round. He couldn't beat Joe Ingles and rookie Donovan Mitchell with a top 3 MVP candidate on his team.
Joe Ingles.
Like, I'm sorry. The Westbrook stands have been getting to me a little bit lately, and I just need to remind them all of where Westbrook actually lies in the playoff, in the player rankings, and the playoffs are a great time to showcase that because that's when true playoff Westbrook comes out.
I have nothing more to say about that. I mean, you pretty much got it covered. I've been letting you do most of the Westbrook slander. No disrespect to Russ Westbrook. He's an incredible player. Go down as a top 10 point guard of all time.
He's top 7 point guard right now in the league.
Yeah, top 7 point guard in the league right now. I think I actually had him at 7 on my all-time rankings of point guards. I think it was a little high. I'll probably have him around 8 or 9 the more I look into it. Maybe 12. He'll be like 15 to 18 range after this series. But no disrespect to Russell Westbrook. He's such an incredible player. If you want to make the playoffs, get Russell Westbrook on your team. If you want to win the championship, don't have Russell Westbrook on your team. We'll end it at that. Let's move on now to I'll look into the other games. We'll save the fun one for the end. We'll save the Lakers Suns talking about that series for the end. We'll move on to, in my opinion, the best game out of this season, out of the first couple games we've seen. I know you could say it about the Milwaukee-Miami game, but when you see two teams that aren't supposed to really be in the playoffs going at it, I wouldn't say not supposed to be, but two young teams who in the beginning of the season, no one expected to be super competitive, end up being the 4 and 5 seed, and then having an incredible first game in the Atlanta Hawks versus the New York Knicks. The Atlanta Hawks, of course, came out and won the game by 2 points due to a Trae Young floater with 1 second left in the game. We saw Alec Burks drop 27 points and make me regret the Warriors ever trading him because we have him next to Stephen Curry as our number 2 scorer.
We had him last year too. Both of our teams lost him in the last year.
Exactly. I mean, we saw MVP Julius Randle come out and have not the best of games, and the Knicks were still able to only lose by 2 points. But we saw the role players at Atlanta it was a really, really weird game in the end. Final score was 107-105. Atlanta ended up winning the game, and Trae Young was getting trash talked by a lot of those fans at Madison Square Garden. And that game right there, if you watch that game, is the reason why so many players love playing at Madison Square Garden with limited fans, that it looked like an actual NBA playoff game. And you could see all the Knicks fans who haven't had a playoff game in such a long time really out there supporting their team. And even though they took the loss and Trae Young really shut them up at the end of the game, it was such an exciting and fun game to watch. So now I'm going to talk to you. I had Atlanta winning in 7. You have New York winning in 7 if you look at our Backcourt Press Instagram page. I don't know if any games are going to be a blowout of over 10 points in the series because I feel like these teams are so evenly matched. So talk to me about this series.
Absolutely. I said on my recent update on this series that this would definitely be going to 7 games. And while that's going to be hard to predict, I will say there will not be a game in this series that is like a blowout. Every game is going to be a close game. Now, whether the Hawks win 4 2-point games and sweep the Knicks, it's very likely. Or the Knicks go out and win 4 games, the next 4 games, all within a 5-point. Yeah, that could happen. I just think these are such evenly matched teams that you're in for great game after great game. But the one thing I do want to mention is a little hypocrisy among NBA fans, because you see this a lot. There's a lot of social media slander on Disney, Anthony Davis, the other day
Hey, Disney.
for 13 points and poor shooting in the loss. Can we talk about Julius Randle for a second? Right, Anthony Davis gets slandered for 5 for 6.
Julius Randle had a good game. What are you talking about? Everyone loves Julius Randle.
Anthony Davis has 13 points on 5 for 16. And social media explodes. Disney is the number one thing trending on Twitter for like an hour. Julius Randle shoots 6 for 23 and has 15 points. And it's just crickets. Crickets. This is a guy who people are saying is the lock for most improved player. Should be all NBA third or second team. People are saying some have him top 5, 10 MVP. That's a little far for me. Maybe top 10 I could see, but Julius Randle, man, you gotta step it up. If no one's gonna criticize you, I will because he needs to be held accountable. He needs to be held to the standard of a superstar. If people are going to treat him as one, if people are going to treat him as an All NBA player, he needs to play like one. 6 for 23 from the field and 15 points is not going to cut it. His offensive rating was 73, which is atrocious. I will say he was good on the defensive end, so I will credit him with that. He had a great defensive game, as he always does. The Knicks in general had a pretty solid defensive game. The Hawks were just hitting their shots. Can't fault them for that. But Julius Randle's going to have to step up if the Knicks are going to win. I'm changing my prediction from Knicks in 7 to Hawks in 7.
Oh.
I was saying to my dad when we were watching the game with about 2 minutes left, I said, whoever won game 1, I said was going to win the series. And so I'm going to stick with that. The Hawks ended up pulling through in game 1. So I'm changing my prediction to a Hawks in 7. But it could still go one of two ways. I honestly, these are such evenly matched teams. I think the Hawks are overall more talented. I trust Trae Young as a superstar more than I trust Julius Randle. But the Knicks have the intensity. You saw Madison Square Garden. You saw their fans.
Oh, it's amazing.
They want this. The fan base wants it. The players want it. They're better coached. I think Tibbs is a great coach. Even though the Hawks are the better team, I think this is such an evenly matched series that you could flip a coin on it.
Exactly. I know you were talking about the slander of Julius Randle, but I'm also going to, you talked about that. I'm going to give a lot of credit to DeAndre Hunter. Came out and only had 5 points in the game and only, no assists, no steals, no blocks, 4 rebounds. Had what looks like on the stat sheet a pretty bad game, but he had the direction of guarding Julius Randle for what seemed like a good portion of this game. And I have to give a lot of credit to him on the defensive side. DeAndre Hunter is such an underrated player. I know he was injured for a lot of the season, but if he wasn't, I think a lot of people would be talking about him in like top 3 and D players in the NBA due to the fact that his defense is something that if the Hawks are going to win, I think they're really, really going to need it. Yeah. I loved his presence on the court. I know John Collins looked a little frustrated out there sometimes. He only finished with 12 points and 7 rebounds. His fit is starting to be a little questionable with me, for me when it comes to this Atlanta Hawks team. But overall, I think overall, I think the Hawks are a better, more talented team. I think the Knicks might want it a little more if we're talking outside of Trae Young, because I think Trae Young wants it more than anyone. As you could see, he really wants to prove himself as a top player in the league. And even if he's going to jump into the player behind him and shoot 15 free throws a game, if the refs are not changing that call, I don't see why he doesn't do it. I don't blame him. I don't think it's on him. I know a lot of people are like, that's not basketball. Steve Nash came out and criticized it. A lot of the media came out and criticized it. But if the league isn't going to make a rule to change it, and Trae Young's going to be a top free throw shooter in the NBA, if they have a chance to go down every time on the court and get 2 free throws out of Trae Young, they're going to win the game. Like that, to me, that's just a well-known fact. So I don't blame him for doing it. I blame more the referees in the league for not changing the rule.
He's exploiting a bad rule in the NBA. There's nothing wrong with that on his part. 2 things I want to mention about the Hawks, because we just talked about the Knicks for a little bit. Lou Williams was awesome. Williams had the best game I've seen him play in probably maybe a year. He came off the bench, and I remember laughing because me and my dad were talking about how he doesn't pass, and he came in, and I think I saw at one point in 11 minutes he had taken 8 shots, which is
13 minutes he took 9 shots.
Yep, classic Lou Will right there. But he provided the spark off the bench that Atlanta needed to keep their lead at one point in the 3rd quarter and early 4th quarter. And another thing I wanted to mention, a stat that I saw that was pretty mind-boggling. Trae Young had a 30-10 game in his first ever playoff game. Only 3 other players in NBA history have done that. LeBron James, Chris Paul, and Derrick.
D Rose.
Those are the only other 3 players who have had their first ever career playoff game being a 30-10 game.
Trae
Young is in very good company. He's got the ice in his veins. I feel like Trae.
No, don't take that away from D'Angelo Russell. D'Lo will be doing that one day in the playoffs.
D'Lo might not see the playoffs again the rest of his career.
If he's in Minnesota, I'm not disagreeing.
I just feel like Trae Young is one of the most hated NBA players, right? We're just talking about Russell Westbrook. You don't see many NBA fans putting Trae Young ahead of Russell Westbrook. I feel like a majority of the NBA fan base has Russell Westbrook firmly ahead of Trae Young, and if you say anything differently, they'll yell at you. I think I have Trae Young ahead of Russell Westbrook, and I think yesterday's games proved why Trae Young is the superior player. I mean, the way that he can score the ball from anywhere on the floor, his playmaking was ridiculous, drawing doubles and dishing it to open guys. He had the ice in his veins right there at the end. He hit the clutch shot to win it all. I mean, Trae Young is an absolute bucket right now, and the Hawks surround him with enough defensive pieces to keep them alive. Obviously, he's not a very good defender, but he's good enough on offense and when it comes to guards, offense is more valuable than defense. It's always been that big men defense is more valuable and guards offense is more valuable, and that's how it will continue to be. His offense provides such a lift for the Hawks that he, to me, is borderline top 5 point guard. I have him 6 right now, but he's right there, and the series is going to prove that because he's going to continue to do this the whole series.
Exactly. I mean, we saw it. He's known for his long-range shot. He only attempted 3 3-point shots and only made 1 of them and was still able to put up 32 points, just showing how incredible his offensive skill set really is. He can't, and the thing is, he could come out next game against the Knicks and have 6 for 8 from 3-point range, and he's just going to be as dominant as he was in the first game. So I love him as a player. I loved him when he was out of college in Oklahoma. He just reminded me of the next Steph Curry, and I love the way Steph Curry plays basketball. So, I mean, I have a lot of trust in Trae Young. I think his defense, as he gets older, will get better. His just IQ of basketball will get better, and that says something because his playmaking ability at such a young age is already so incredible that I think we're just going to see him get better and better. And along with this young Hawks team, we haven't even seen like Onyeka Okongwu, Cam Reddish. Those guys are barely even getting rotational minutes anymore. Well, yeah, I guess so. But Onyeka Okongwu, you got DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah,
I love Clint Capella in the series. I think he's the true X factor. His paint dominance is something that's really he's such an underrated center. I mean, you talk about top centers in the NBA. Clint Capella's never get brought up. Yeah, I feel like Clint Capella has the most 15 games out of every. He probably doesn't, but it seems like that's just who he is as a center. So I think he's the true X factor in this series. I know we talked about all those other players, but I'll stick with my prediction that I made in the beginning of the series. That's Hawks in 7. But it's no matter who wins this series. I know we got a comment saying my buddy Ziad says Knicks in 6, who is a Knicks fan. So I understand where he's coming from. And that could very well happen if Julius Randle and RJ Barrett play very efficient. I'm not going to discredit that opinion. At the same time, I just think the Hawks are too overpowered offensively, and I'm going to stick with Hawks in 7.
If you look at it from this perspective, right, Julius Randle had one of his worst games of the season, and the Knicks lost off of a buzzer beater. I mean, if you look at it from that, I mean, the Knicks are in good shape. So this could go anyway. Before we move on, I just want to talk about how horrible Danilo Gallinari's haircut is.
Oh my God, it's awful. I was waiting for someone to bring it up.
Sorry, Danilo, please get that cut. That is horrible. That is horrendous. I don't want to see that on my screen anymore. The fact that Trae Young no longer has the worst hair on his own team just shows you that Gallo, do something about that, please.
Yeah, geez. I was watching that game too. I was like, what the hell is that, man? Moving on to the We Believe Grizzlies defeating the number 1 seed Utah Jazz in the first game of this series that we both have predicted to now go to 5 games. And having Utah go 4-0 in the next 5. I apologize to Memphis fans. I apologize to Zach's roommate, but this was an amazing game to watch, though. No discredit to Memphis. They played their hearts out. They will continue to play their hearts out. We saw Dylan Brooks, one of the biggest trash talkers in the NBA, shoot 50% from the field and have 31 points, have an amazing game. We saw Jonas Valanciunas with his double-double. But in the end, it was truly the Ja Morant show, clutching this game up and showing why Ja Morant is one of the best young players in the NBA and probably one of the best already leaders on any team in the NBA. But I also think it shows the depth of this Memphis team. I mean, they had Xavier Tillman come in, and although he didn't even have a good game, he looked like his impact out there was very decent. Grayson Allen seems like he comes in for 2 minutes, his 4 threes, and then goes right back to the bench. I know he played 23 minutes this game, but against the Warriors, his first minutes were in overtime, and he hit 2 threes to come out the gates in overtime. And when that happened, I knew the Warriors were losing. Big shout out to this Memphis team. They're really, really deep. They're not even playing Brandon Clark via coach's decision, which I think says something about how depth this team is. But yet the Utah Jazz had a very bad game. As we said, they shot 25% from 3. Jordan Clarkson, the 6th man of the year, came out and shot 0 for 8 from 3. The team just did not look good, especially in their bench rotation. And they lost by 3 points without Donovan Mitchell playing and having Joe Ingles replace Donovan Mitchell, which athletically, I know they're very similar. But besides that, Joe Ingles is not the player Donovan Mitchell is. I want to know, we both have Utah coming out in 5. Unfortunately for Grizzlies fans, talk about the series.
The key to that game was Rudy Gobert's foul trouble.
Yes.
And I know everyone's going to be like, oh, here's Zach again, hyping up Rudy Gobert. Yeah, I'm probably the only person in the entire country other than Jazz fans and French people who actually like Rudy Gobert. But I think he's great. I think he's a great player, and I think he deserves so much more love than he gets. The Jazz were in control.
Player of the year.
Yeah, easily, and that's coming from a Sixers fan. The Jazz were in control in the first quarter. The only time they had control in that game was in the first quarter when Gobert was in the game. And then Gobert had three fouls and was forced to come out. And from there, it flipped. Memphis took over, went on a run, took control of the game. And then Rudy came back in, more fouls, more foul trouble, ended up fouling out, only played 25 minutes, was out for the last 5 minutes of the game. They are significantly better when he is on the court, both offensively and defensively, with the space he creates on offense with his pick and roll. The impact that he has, it is the key to their whole 3-point shooting because it creates so much space with him and then the 4 guys on the perimeter, and then the way he has his defensive impact, right? No one will even come to the rim when he is down there. Just his mere presence prevents guards from driving on him. And as soon as he was out of the game, you saw Ja and Dylan Brooks just attacking the rim every single time. If Gobert can stay out of foul trouble and play a full 35 minutes, and I think even if Donovan Mitchell didn't even come back, I still think the Jazz would still win this series. They shot the ball terrible. They won't shoot that bad again. Maybe once, but I mean, this is a top 3-point shooting team in the league. It's not going to happen again. Gobert will be back and fully good. And then once Mitchell comes back, that's the nail in the coffin. The Grizzlies won by 3, and all of these factors were hurting the Jazz. Once they're all good again, the Jazz will take this one pretty handily. This is a series I'm still not very excited about. I think this is going to be a lot of blowouts in the next couple games.
Yeah, and you really covered this game pretty much exactly as, and I think most fans will. There's not much more to talk about except for my new favorite player in the NBA that's not named D'Angelo Russell, who plays power forward or small forward for the Memphis Grizzlies. Slow-mo Kyle Anderson is such a funny player to watch. Man does everything in slow motion, whether it's his dribbling, whether it's his shot, whether it's the way that he just dribbles. I know Zach and I were talking the other day. He's on a fast break running up the court, and by the time he gets to the basket, there's already 4 guys in front of him due to how slow of a player he is. I don't know. I just want to put some respect on his name. He's such a fun player to watch. And this game, I felt like I was like laughing at him by the way he plays. Well, like, hey, I mean, if they win the game and he plays well, then they win the game. So good for them. But I had to put that out there.
That's all I got about.
such a
That's all I got about the Grizzlies Jazz game. I feel like there's not much to say. This is definitely the least exciting of the series, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know if Stephen Curry was playing in the series, probably be a little bit more to talk about. Even if they got swept, I think there'd be more to talk about. But unfortunately, the Grizzlies, they played a little bit better in overtime, and Draymond Green couldn't hit a floater.
The Jazz and the Grizzlies have the 29th and 30th biggest fan bases in the NBA. So that tells you how excited everyone is about this series.
Exactly. Now, we're an hour 15 minutes in. We're about to wrap it up with the podcast and everything, but we have one more series to cover before we finish, and that is probably the most exciting series of them all. The Los Angeles Lakers taking on the 7th seed Los Angeles Lakers, taking on the 2 seed Phoenix Suns, which is just such an amazing series. The first game, though, is really when LeBron and AD combined for 31 points, and Devin Booker on his own was able to play 45 of the 48 minutes and just completely take over this game, even with Chris Paul exiting the game for a little bit. It was such a fun game to watch. But the X factor of this game, I know we both talked about it, Devin Booker was hitting his shots. Mikal Bridges was playing lockdown defense. But for the first time in what seems like his entire career, we saw DeAndre Ayton care and show energy on the defensive side of the ball. He finished with 21 points, 16 rebounds, 8 defensive rebounds, and 8 offensive rebounds, and absolutely just outplaying Anthony Davis incredibly. Anthony Davis finished with the worst plus-minus on the Lakers with a minus 18 in 39 minutes, 13 points, 5 for 16, 7 rebounds, all defensive rebounds, no offensive. And it was really DeAndre Ayton's assignment on Anthony Davis, and you could just see when DeAndre Ayton would get a defensive stop or even a timeout was called, you could see him excited and wanting to win, which is something we don't really see out of the 6'11" number 1 overall pick out of Arizona. I know you still have the Lakers winning the series. I do as well. I've had the series going 7 from the start. You have it going 6.
I switched. I originally had Lakers in 6 after game 1. I'm switching it to Lakers in 7, but still Lakers. It's Lakers winning it.
Talk to me.
I could talk about this series for like 30 minutes, so you might have to cut me off at some point. But
I got time.
Yeah. There's so many things I could say about the Lakers and Anthony Davis specifically. First of all, Andre Drummond, terrible fit.
Why were you talking about him?
The worst experiment I think I've ever seen. Like, get him off the court, get him off the team. He does not help. He actually had his best game with the Lakers.
12-9, good efficiency.
12-9. Yeah, but the difference is Anthony Davis is, to me, plays best as a center.
Always has.
In the Warriors game the other day, Anthony Davis had 0 points when Andre Drummond was on the floor with him. Shot 0 of 8 from the field. When he was playing center, he had 25 points. Like, it isn't hard to figure out, and I don't know why the Lakers haven't yet. Anthony Davis is not good when he's playing on the perimeter because when Anthony Davis is playing a power forward, it clogs up the paint because then you have LeBron who's a primary attacker, Anthony Davis, and Andre Drummond on the inside, which pushes Anthony Davis to the perimeter. Anthony Davis shoots 26% from 3. He's not a good 3-point shooter. He was able to shoot it pretty well in the bubble last year, but this year he has not been a good 3-point shooter, yet he still is attempting too many of them a game. He's missing most of them. This isn't a Kevin Love kind of thing where he can adjust his game and just become an outside shooter, a spot-up guy for the rest of his career. Anthony Davis is too good and too dominant to be able to do that. So it's frustrating to me to see that's becoming his role right now. He needs to get in the paint and continue to be the offensive and defensive monster that he is. Do you have anything to say about AD?
I completely agree. I think he is a primary center. I know that going back to where you were saying the Lakers haven't figured it out. I know there's been reports that Anthony Davis has specifically said, I don't want to play center. I know he's came out and said that he wants to be a power forward. To me, I'd just say why. It seems like this whole team would be so much better built around if they ran Anthony Davis at the center position, even slid LeBron possibly to the 4. Taylor Horton-Tucker and Kuzma can get those forward minutes.
I will tell you what the Lakers' best lineup is right now. It's Dennis Schroeder, Alex Caruso, KCP, LeBron, and Anthony Davis.
I completely agree.
When those five are on the floor, that is when the Lakers are at their absolute peak. Because then you have LeBron playing basically a point forward with shooters attacking, KCP and Caruso shooting, as long as
Caruso's defense.
Incredible perimeter defense.
Incredible.
Anthony Davis at the 5, which is where he belongs the most. That is the best lineup on the floor for the Lakers. And the fact that they don't run that lineup as much as they should is a little disappointing to see. Caruso, we both mentioned. I think Caruso's been fantastic so far. I remember a sequence where he had 3 defensive stops right in a row, caused 3 turnovers consecutively,
incredible player,
which gave the Lakers 6 points, which was a huge swing. It was like a 12-point game went to like a 6-point game. So that was huge. KCP did not shoot the ball very well, but as we saw in the playoffs last year, he's streaky. He's going to have games where he shoots 1 for 7, and then he'll have a game where he'll shoot 5 for 9 from 3. It's going to happen. He's a spot-up corner shooter. He'll get those shots, and he'll make those shots eventually.
Exactly.
There was a point in the finals last year at halftime of Game 1 when Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was the finals MVP. So give it time. Along with the Lakers, LeBron James didn't look as explosive or as athletic or aggressive.
It's because he's not 100%, Zach. Did you not hear the memo? He's not 100% now in his career. It's finally happened. Jesus.
He did end up finishing with 18, 10, and 7, which is a subpar playoff game for the King. Lamicki, he's really gonna need to step it up if they're gonna win this series. I mean, look, everyone's talking. I was telling you this last night. I have mixed feelings on this series because history shows that LeBron is fine. Like, he's 15-14 in game 1s in his career, and in those series, he's gone on to win, I think, like 90% of them. Like, he loses game 1s all the time, and it doesn't matter. In the end, he still comes back and wins the series. But I'm a little worried because he didn't look like himself out there. And Phoenix is one of the best teams he's ever faced in the first round. This isn't no 2018 Indiana Pacers with Victor Oladipo as the only good player on the team. Like, this is a completely different breed. This Suns team is dangerous. And LeBron and Anthony Davis are going to have to be playing their absolute best to win the series, which they can. They absolutely can. But it's going to take a lot. He can't casually play through this like it's any other random Eastern Conference bum series. Like, this is the West. And this is the competitive West. This isn't the bubble.
Yeah.
But like, this is real basketball, and I still think the Lakers are going to come through. I still think they're going to win the series, especially with the Chris Paul going down. I don't think we're going to see a peak Chris Paul the rest of the series. I don't know about you, but watching Chris Paul in that game, he looked awful. He did not look like the same player. His ball handling, he was just randomly losing the ball at times. His jump shot was completely different. His form was just not what it always is. He was like cocking it back to like over his shoulder, which just doesn't look right from his shooting form.
Carlos Boozer.
Yeah, right. Like, it just didn't look good. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter for the Suns. Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. I mean, Devin Booker's
amazing game.
Devin Booker is one of my 5 favorite players in the league today. I'm a huge fan of his, and I will continue to be. For great first ever playoff performance. I know he is going to. It makes me feel good about that I got this prediction so far right, and I'm going to stick with it. I said it after the Suns missed the playoffs last year. I don't know if you remember this, but I said Devin Booker will not miss the playoffs again for the next 8 years. I'm
8 years.
I think Devin Booker is a consistent playoff guy now, and he is going to continue to establish himself as that. He's ridiculous, dude. He does everything. He just offensively, it is incredible the way he is able to play the game. His playmaking is incredibly underrated. He was finding all sorts of open shooters. Mikal Bridges in the corner, one of the most automatic shots that I've seen this year when he's open in the corner. In general, Bridges is just a fantastic 3-and-D role player, great starter for them. Booker is, like I said, his playmaking was great. He was making all of his mid-range shots. He was hitting his open threes, clutch shots, everything, ball handling. He was doing it all for them. I'm very excited to see where this series goes.
Now, you mentioned when we were talking out east, that you think that the winner of the Bucks Nets will go to the finals. Could this possibly be the series that the winner of this series goes to the Western Conference or goes to the finals out west?
Absolutely, but I will say the one thing is the Phoenix Suns' kryptonite this season has been the Los Angeles Clippers. I think the Clippers are undefeated against the Suns this year. Kawhi and PG match up really well against this Phoenix team. I don't think Phoenix would beat the Clippers in a series if the Clippers managed to get to the conference finals. But
no, they're not getting out of the first round.
Maybe. If the Suns do beat the Lakers and they avoid the Clippers, I think they are the best team out west.
You look at this Suns team, and you're probably not going to see Jay Crowder shoot 0 for 7 from 3 again. Because we saw Jay Crowder step it up for the Miami Heat incredibly last year. And I just don't see Jay Crowder shooting 0 for 7 from 3 again and not making a single 3-point shot, because he shot 0 for 7 in 29 minutes and still had a plus minus of plus 14 when he was on the court. And Devin Booker played 45 minutes, had a plus minus of plus 9. So it just shows how impactful Jay Crowder was on the court for the team. But that pick and roll between Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton when Chris Paul ended up going down and the ball was in Devin Booker's hands. And shout out to Cameron Payne as well. He actually really stepped up. I know he didn't shoot the ball well this game, but he did play very, very valuable point guard minutes for this team. And just his career has been crazy. The fact that he's actually a backup point guard on a championship contending team, I would say the Phoenix Suns are, compared to where he was like back in Chicago, is just kind of incredible if you really look at it. But no, Devin Booker, they were doing like this dribble handoff between DeAndre and Devin Booker. Devin Booker wasn't missing that short mid-range shot. It didn't matter if Manute Bol or Anthony Davis was guarding him. That shot was going in every single time he shot it. It was a thing of beauty to watch. DeAndre Ayton looked unstoppable on the offensive side. He shot 10 for 11 from the field. I'd honestly like to see him even get more than 11 shots up in a game. I think that's not enough. I know he had 21 points, but even if Anthony Davis is guarding him, they have to heavily rely on DeAndre Ayton. He's such a crucial part of this team. He's truly the only real center that they're playing because of the fact that Dario Saric has been running the backup center minutes. Now, no disrespect to Dario Saric. He actually has been pretty solid for this team.
Full disrespect to
Dario Saric.
He's not good. Sorry.
They got, Cam Johnson, kind of a small forward, power forward who's been running power forward minutes as well. But no, I think this X factor, we know what Mikal Bridges is going to bring on the defensive side of the ball, especially if he's on LeBron James. I think he's one of the few players out west that could possibly actually slow LeBron down. I'm not saying slow LeBron down and he's going to average what he did this game every single game. But if he even averages a 30-point triple-double and the Lakers lose, I'm going to give a lot of that credit to Mikal Bridges. But I think the true X factor for this series is going to be DeAndre Ayton. I think the true X factor for the Suns' playoff run is going to be DeAndre Ayton due to the fact that he's been such a mediocre defender his whole career. I would even possibly put him below average defender when it comes to the center position. But now he's really, you could see his energy up. You could see that he wants to win this series. And the fact that I think a good thing for the Suns is that when they were betting, they came in as an underdog into the series technically. Once the Warriors lost that game to the Lakers, the Suns were technically the underdogs to win this series as the 2 seed. Yep. And Monty Williams is way too good of a head coach to allow this Phoenix Suns team to go out to the Lakers without a fight. Yep. I know we still have the Lakers winning the series, but honestly, if the Suns win this series, I don't know if they're going to lose another series at all in the playoffs.
Like I said, I think the matchup against the Clippers would be one that I think would be at a disadvantage for the Suns, but overall, they're one of the most dangerous teams out there. They'll be very tough to beat overall.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you said the X factor is 8, and I would agree with you on that. The other X factor to me is Chris Paul's health. You got to keep that is something that I'm going to be monitoring. Got to keep your eye on that because if Chris Paul is not fully healthy or is playing at half his capacity, Suns aren't going to go very far.
Exactly. Devin Booker's not going to be able to play 45 minutes every single game and put up 34, 8, and 7. Especially the 8 assists. You could see that he was really controlling that pick and roll game that normally Chris Paul does with DeAndre Ayton. Yep. And then Devin Booker comes off ball, catches it, does his one dribble pull-ups, has every single shot in the book Devin Booker does. So
Devin Booker has proved over the last 5 years that he can do literally anything on the basketball court, but he works best when he has Chris Paul doing all that stuff for him so he can focus on scoring. Now, of course, Chris Paul goes down, Booker can go back and pick up that load and do everything again. I don't think it'll help the Suns in the long run. I think Booker operates best when he's just focusing on scoring. But we've seen he can still carry this team. We've seen it in the past.
It's like Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, you see Kyrie Irving can do everything offensively, but the team is so much better when James Harden's handling the ball due to the fact that he's a better playmaker. I think it's the exact same thing. This is the exact same thing out west.
Scoring, absolutely.
50, 40, 90 club.
Yep.
Third best point guard in the NBA. I'm sorry, Trailblazers fans. I don't ever compare Damian Lillard to Steph Curry again, and this is what's going to happen on the Backcourt Press podcast.
If Dame brings Portland to the second round, I might have to join in with the Dame fans and put him ahead of Kyrie.
Oh my God, that will be the end of this podcast. No,
maybe I'll put him ahead of Luka too.
Oh my God, now you're going crazy.
Before we end,
yeah, go for it.
I saw just a thing about Dame and Luka. Someone said if you swapped Dame and Luka, the Trailblazers are going to the Western Conference Finals. Do you agree with that?
Yep.
And the Mavericks don't make the playoffs?
No, Mavericks make the playoffs.
You think they sneak in?
I think the Lakers are what? They're the 7th seed. No, yeah, they're the 7th. They're the 8th seed.
I think the Warriors with Curry versus Mavericks with Dame. I would take the Warriors with Curry.
Me too. I would too. And do you imagine the open shots CJ McCollum would get if he played with Luka Doncic? I mean, they'd actually have an okay caliber center in Nurkic because Porzingis can't do anything in the paint. I mean, okay.
Robert Covington would be elevated to be an actual solid player.
Yeah, maybe this is just me. Why are there so many big men? I don't know. This is why I was watching a couple of the games. I've been hearing a lot of people talk about this. Why, when you watch a big man in the game, especially someone like Kristaps Porzingis, and say a guard, I don't care how tall you are as a guard, except unless you're Ben Simmons, and a guard gets switched on to Kristaps Porzingis, he brings them to the perimeter. Back them. You could be 7'3", 100 pounds, no muscle on you, pure skeleton. Back the guard down. I don't understand what Kristaps is scared of the post. He's straight up just scared of it. And I'm oh my God.
Porzingis was gifted by God to be 7'3", and he's just throwing that in the trash. You know what I'd do if I was 7'3"?
I'd be Michael Jordan.
Dude.
Oh my God. I had to bring that up, man. It makes me so frustrated to watch that. He has so much potential to be such a good post player, such a just good all-around player in the NBA, and yet he gets one block a game. Dude, just don't be a liability at least.
Do you remember when he averaged 2.5 blocks per game with the Knicks?
He looked like he cared. He just looked like he cared a little bit.
I know. It's the Knicks culture.
Now he just stands on the perimeter and shoots 1 for 6 from 3, has 14 points a game, and is the reason that the Mavericks aren't going to win the championship. That's how I'm going to end this podcast. Any last things you would like to say about the Sacramento Kings before we head off?
Stay tuned for the top 10 players in Kings history. I had to dig pretty deep for this one.
Hey, don't forget, today we talked about number 1 overall pick, DeAndre Ayton, number 3 overall pick, Luka Doncic, number 4 overall pick, Jaren Jackson Jr., number 5 overall pick, Trae Young. Do you remember who went second?
I don't know. Who was 2? Was it the Kings?
Oh.
Did they take some stiff named Marvin Bagley? I don't know.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God. Well, Marvin Bagley slander is tolerated here at Backcourt Press because actually all Kings players except for Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox. Then you can tolerate any other hate for any other players.
And Buddy, I like Buddy.
Yeah.
Bring him to Philly. Bring him to Philly.
Oh well, if he's on any other team, he's not getting any.
We'll have a home for him.
Bring him to Golden State. We need someone to shoot the ball that's not Steph Curry, man. And we can't be relying on second-year Jordan Poole. All right, boys, and everyone who watched. Thank you all for watching. Shout out to all the people that commented, including Will Hoffman, Bobby, my dad, even Zach Perez. I didn't shout him out real quick, but Zach said yo, so I'll say hello to my buddy Zach. Who, hey, we're going to Orlando all with each other in a couple of weeks.
Wait till we get Perez on the Backcourt Press podcast in Orlando.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
Mans has.
it'll be going on. We'll be doing one when we're in Orlando.
We will be. That is in 2 weeks, boys. I will be everyone. I will be home in a week when you will see me in my normal setup. It's been really, really fun. We're finally back on the podcast grind now that summer has officially started for both of us. I still have my biggest race of the year, so I probably will not be able to do one for the rest of this week up until Sunday when I go home. Due to the fact that if you ever want to tune in, I will be racing in the college rowing national championship, the IRA national championship under Temple University. You can see the sweatshirt. I'll keep people updated on that if anyone's watching. But thank you all for tuning in. It's been really fun today. It's Backcourt Press. Be sure to follow us on Instagram. We've been keeping our series up, posting very, very pretty much daily with all our NBA content. So if you're not finding us here, you're finding us over there. And obviously, shout out to my co-host Zach Vinci for all the great NBA in-depth analysis. And sooner or later, we will be getting an actual NBA analyst named Danny Thompson on the show. He wants to test our 90s knowledge. So I said I will take a step back, and I see Zach rubbing his hands because of the fact that he knows his 90s, and it'll be a lot of fun to talk 90s basketball with an analyst.
And shout out Phil Mickelson.
That's a good shout out. Thank you all for watching. It's been fun. This has been Backcourt Press, and we will catch you guys in the next time.